Have you encountered the situation where the enemy Igor redirects the important ultimates from your team to himself and only for him to be immune to the damage output from the ultimate? Have you met this Igor who jumps around the whole map and is never killed when he's backed by a healer, as he's just gonna bounce around and time out you? Now, you're not the only one with the problem, and in today's video, we're gonna provide a few solutions. Hello everyone, this is Zeeebo and welcome back to yet another AFK journey video. So over the past few days when I was scrolling through the Reddit posts, I saw quite a bit of complaints for this unit over here which is known as Igor. So it's also a problem which I see in Discord, and people are asking, you know, how to counter Igor, what's a good way to deal with Igor. And let me clarify, okay, Igor is a super annoying unit from the mid to late game. This fact is not going to change because the more stats Igor have, right, the more scaling his skill have, and he's just going to become annoying the later. I mean, he will just become an annoyance, right, the further you go into the game, right? If you go into Labyrinth where he has a lot of stats, he's practically unkillable in most cases if you don't have any answers. And if you're going into higher difficulty PvE contents, right, if he's supported by a healer, if he's way overstated compared to you, or he have a stats boost applied to him, this unit is gonna be a pain in the ass. It's not a you problem, it's everybody's problem. I've encountered my fair share of annoying Igor, even in the PvP, like even in the Igor stat setting, right? Igor is super annoying. And in today's video, I'm gonna share with you guys some like answers, some tips and tricks on how you can deal with Igor, how you can counter this unit, and prepare yourself in case you encounter Igor and then you'll be like, what do I do with this unit, right? So without further ado, I'm going to start by analyzing the unit skills first and then discuss why this unit is OP. So first of all, Funeral Ring, right? Summons a tombstone where he stands when the battle starts. Each time an enemy loses 40% of their HP, Igor summons another tombstone on an empty tile closest to this enemy, which will disappear after taking 3 normal attacks. Igor will always stand on a tombstone and remain steadfast, and he deals 150% damage to all enemies when casting his ultimate. So this number will increase all the way up to 270% damage. And this is one of the more annoying part for him because basically this ultimate allows him to summon the tombstone whenever your side loses 40%. Any unit, by the way, it's not whole team. Any unit loses 40% of their HP. So what can happen? You lose 40% HP, he spawn a tombstone, you heal back up, you lose another 40%, he's going to spawn more tombstone, right? And then when he casts this ultimate as active, he's going to deal damage to every unit on your side. And then from there, he's going to gain more tombstone. So whenever the tombstone is active, right, the tombstone is a terrain block, right? There's actually a very funny situation where you have like 10 or more tombstone that is flooded on the map because basically all the other unit died off, and then maybe you have a Igor versus Igor, and then the tombstone are spawned by all the Igors on both sides, right? And then you will actually realize, you know, your Igor can't kill the opponent Igor, and the opponent Igor cannot kill your Igor as well. So this tombstone is very annoying as well because it's actually like a rock that blocks the terrain. So if you're using a melee team, right, if the path to the enemy is very small, what happens is your melee unit actually have to hit the tombstone 3 times to break it. So you guys will see a white bar on the tombstone when your enemy is hitting it. So you need to hit 3 times, so you drop 3 times until it disappears. So it's super anti-melee in one way as well. So this is why Igor is annoying. Other than just being steadfast, other than the ability to keep on spawning this tombstone, he's also able to block melee units with the tombstone itself. So it's really not recommended to do a full melee team against Igor because he's going to be bouncing around a lot. And your units are going to be running around like a madman. And if his tombstone blocks your melee unit, right, what do? Your melee unit has to hit the rock. And this gives Igor time to lower the HP of your units and then spawn more tombstones. So you guys can see the cycle over there. And then second skill, Ghastly Explosion. All tombstones are activated every 8 seconds or when Igor casts ultimate. Igor jumps onto an activated tombstone, dealing 140% damage to enemies within 1 tile and deactivating the tombstone. He gains damage immunity and can't be targeted using this skill, and when the tombstone Igor jumps onto is activated by his ultimate, this attack deals 50% additional damage. Okay, so this ability provides him with damage immunity when he's jumping around, and when you're about to kill him, right, he basically don't die. Right, he will just jump onto another tombstone, right? He'll be damage immune and you can't target him. So it's very hard to actually control Igor. There's a few ways you can control Igor, but controlling Igor is not the way to go because he has steadfast and not every unit can bypass this steadfast. There's a few units, but I don't recommend them as well because they're not good solutions to Igor. But Ghastly Explosion is basically like a unkillable move. Like you can't kill him, he'll just bounce around as long as there's actually a tombstone. And the thing is, if you combine this with the third skill, which I'll talk about later, right, he can just keep on jumping around, he will deal damage to your team, and this damage immunity is just something that you cannot control. Like this is actually the more annoying part, because yes, if he's steadfast, if the rock blocks the terrain, but if he doesn't have the damage immunity, he will be way less annoying. But this damage immunity is super annoying. And if you take a look at the third skill, Spectral Guard, he uses a tombstone, he is on to block fatal damage blow and jumps onto another tombstone where existing multiple tombstones. So as long as there's tombstone on the battlefield, right, you can't kill him. You have to kill him off by finishing him off when there's no tombstone at all. He will just be jumping around. And the most annoying part, he gains damage immunity during the skill, and he heals for 3% HP of his own HP, by the way, when using Ghastly Explosion or Spectral Guard. So Ghastly Explosion is the second skill, Spectral Guard is the third skill. Each time you release Spectral Guard after casting it 6 times, the HP loss ratio required to summon a tombstone with Funerary Ring is increased by 12%. So further increase in level increases the HP recovery amount. So for this skill itself, right, yes, there's a drawback. So the more you cast Spectral Guard, right, once you hit the 6 time mark, you actually need your enemy to lose more HP to spawn a tombstone. But by the time it happens, right, it means that your battle has drawn out for a super duper long time, and Igor probably has a lot of tombstone. So if you combine ability ultimate, right, ability 1, 2, 3, he has this ability to spawn tombstone, and you can't kill him as long as the tombstone is alive. He gains damage immunity whenever he goes jumping around. He's a steadfast unit because he's always on a tombstone. And lastly, he can heal himself with the third skill. So you guys can see how annoying he is when you combine all the things together. So when you get hero focus, he gains life drain, so more annoyance. He's gonna suck back a little bit of HP with the life drain in his stats. And then Horror Strike, the EX weapon skill, extends the range of Ghastly Explosion by 1 tile and reduces target healing received by 50% for 4 seconds when his HP ratio is above 70%. So means that your team's healing efficiency will drop as long as he's around. And this helps with his tombstone spawning ability, because if your unit is not healing as much, they will fall below this 40% threshold and he'll be able to spawn more tombstones. So yeah. Supreme Blast ability summons an extra tombstone at an adjacent tile with the most enemy when the battle starts. So this Supreme Blast basically ensures that you spawn a tombstone directly at the start of the battle. So it means that you can't just shoot him down immediately because he have one more tombstone. Okay, so running through Igor's kit, right, you guys will realize that this unit is basically unkillable if you don't have answers towards him, because if you're about to kill him, he's gonna jump to his spawn tombstone, and the longer the fight draws out, the more tombstone he can spawn, because eventually your units will lose 40% HP, and that's where Igor's like annoyance comes into light. The longer the battle stalls out, right? So if you want to deal with Igor, I'm gonna recommend 5 solutions how you can deal with him, and I'm gonna sort of explain why it works and at different stages of the game, you know, how do you do it. So in the early to mid game, I'll say in the early game, Igor is less annoying, because Igor is a unit where he needs stats to scale up, right? He's a unit where you need a lot of stats for his ability to sort of be revved up, because at earlier levels, I would say Igor is quite frail, so you can actually easily burst him down, right? With like with a barrage of skills or with focusing attack on him, because as long as Igor can't spawn his tombstones, the very first tombstone that he's standing on will be his only life. So the very first way you want to deal with Igor is to focus fire on him. This is probably the best solution in the early to mid game, because he's quite frail. He only has 1 tombstone, so the best way is to just snipe him off with all the attacks of your unit. So that's number 1. Right, point number 2, once you reach, I'll say like the mid to late game part, there's actually a few direct counters to his kit. So number 1, it's the insta kill mechanic. So insta kill mechanic is a mechanic where the enemies just get defeated once they fall below a certain threshold. So the very first unit that I think everybody probably know about by now and has the ability to sort of develop as fast as possible is our dear OD over here, Desert Defender OD. So this EX weapon, where you unlock it at Mythic Plus, will give you the ability to immediately defeat poison enemies when their HP falls below a certain limit. So as long as the HP of Igor is low enough, it doesn't matter how many rocks he have on the battlefield, he will just pass away. So this insta-kill ability also works against the like of Brutus and other, I'll say like damage immune units. So basically these units, they become immune to damage, but the thing is they're not immune to insta-kill. So that's why they will just pass away when Igor applies the ultimate on them. The other unit with the insta-kill ability, I have to go into the collection to show you guys, is our dear Scalita over here. So Scalita, same thing in the EX weapon. When the enemy is below a certain HP threshold, they just get defeated. So it's the insta-kill mechanic. There's no way Igor can play around it, because as long as they fall below that threshold and it's within the attack percentage, they will just be removed from the map. So it doesn't matter whether or not they have a lot of tombstones, whether or not they have heal, whether or not they're damage immune. But the thing about Scalita compared to OD is Scalita is a melee unit. So sometimes if Scalita's ability comes down a little late and Igor has a lot of tombstone already spawned, that could be an issue for melee unit as well. So this brings me to my third point. I'll say don't build a team full of melee unit against Igor. They're just not good. Like, the tankier Igor is, the weaker melee team is against Igor. Because what will happen is your melee units, right? Like, I'm just gonna put like some of the units which I think people will have, and it's very common, right? So what are some units which is really bad against Igor in a melee team, right? So one, Seth is one. Seth is insanely bad against Igor, so I'm gonna put Seth here. Like, Seth is insanely bad. Like, Seth will be jumping around, right? Seth deals very heavy damage, but the issue is Igor will be damage immune and he'll be bouncing around, and then what will happen is Seth will have to chase Igor around. So Torrent is also not a good answer to Igor, because Torrent's kit, yes, he can actually have 3 lives, but 3 lives not gonna help you kill Igor. At the same time, his counter attack is very massive damage, but his counter attack will always be sort of damage immune by Igor's third ability, where he's damage immune when you're about to kill him. So Torrent is pretty bad as well. Like, I'll say every other melee unit I can think of is just not very good against Igor, right? So in general, if you want to sort of build a team, let me see who else are the common melee units. Okay, even Igor himself, I'll say, is not good against Igor. And then maybe Temasia, or maybe, yeah, Vala. Vala is very bad against Igor, because Vala's kit is similar to Seth, where she wants to do burst damage, but at the same time, if you try to burst Igor down, he's just gonna be damage immune, and then basically you get nowhere, right? Your goal is to either kill him immediately in the mid to late game with all the bursts and then insta killing, or you use elemental counters. So this brings me to my next pointer, how you can kill Igor more efficiently. The strongest unit against Igor will definitely be Brian, because Brian's single target focus ability is just insane, and at the same time, right, he has the fractional bonus. So the fractional bonus allows him to do bonus damage against Igor, making Brian currently one of the best unit to deal with Igor in the mid to late game. However, I know not a lot of people will have Brian like developed, because it's not like some sort of T0 meta unit. I'm just providing you the solution that you can use Brian, but if you don't have Brian, there's actually other solution. So Iron is actually pretty decent against Igor, because Iron is a Wilders unit with the AoE ability. So if you don't deal with Igor, what can you do? You deal with Igor's team, right? So Iron is good in that. Once you finish out all the other 4 units, whether or not the enemy has a lot of healer, just kill them first, and then you deal with Igor, and then you focus your attention on Igor. So Iron does the job really well, right? Other than having the fractional bonus, right? Other than taking less damage from Igor, Iron has the ability to deal with the enemy's team very, very efficiently, making him one of the best answer against Igor as well, right? Other units which I'll say is insanely good against Igor obviously is Reina. So yes, Reina can't actually swap Igor out. I think Reina is just a foolproof answer to any annoying single target unit, because if you go into Reina, right, Reina's EX weapon ability basically causes the enemy to take more damage. So even if it's Igor with the ability to spawn Tombstone, if Igor is gonna take the debuff of taking more damage, he's not gonna survive very long. So Reina's a good solution as well. And then obviously, right, you can build your team around having a lot of healers, right? Damien is one, you just put Heroin, and then you just keep on healing your team such that Igor cannot spawn the tombstones, and then you kill Igor from that. So these are, I'll say, like the more commonly used solution to deal with Igor, and these are the solutions that you probably need in a late game, because there will be a lot of game modes such as Arcane Labyrinth, such as higher level difficulty of battle drills, as well as higher level difficulty of Legends Trial, where you will encounter Igor, and in those stages he will have more stats than you. So you can't really just ignore him, because you can't kill him, you can't win the mode. So that's why Igor is something for you guys to remember and for you guys to always take note of when you fight the stages. But in most cases, I'll say if you have at least OD in your team, you should be safe, because in most cases, let's not talk about PvP, right? In most cases in PvE side, as long as you have OD and you apply the ultimate on Igor, it's an easy solution. So remember to develop my favorite unit, our dear Mr. OD, Mr. Worldwide over here. All the best answers. Very consistent unit as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully these simple tips and tricks have answered you as to how to better deal with Igor moving forward. Do remember to like and subscribe to see more, and I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys!